So what we need to be able to do is look at leaders that will eventually, from day one, will be able to make the right decisions to steer the ship of state away from the storm and into port. So we need serious contenders, not just because they feel that they need to run for office to keep other people from taking the presidency, or they feel that they are popular enough to just run for office. I don't think at this point in time it is wise for government to spend or what people will call the fiscal spending to restart the economy. We need to do that when the economy is fully reopened. Given that we have very little ammunition, you need to conserve it and use it at the right time. So the only time that that can materialize is that when we're able to fully reopen the economy. Otherwise, you're just like trying to push a car that hasn't been used over a year and the handbrake is up. No matter how much you push it, the car won't move.
First question related to the elections is, how big of an impact will the elections have on our economy as a whole? Because historically, the GDP is up during an election year, but what do you expect for 2022?
To me, regardless of whoever gets elected, typically if we just focus on the stock market, every 6 years, there is normally a 20% gain between the exit of a previous administration to the next. There's normally a 20% increase. It really doesn't matter who sits. The key question is really what will they do to support the economy to move forward. I think that those are the keys. And eventually, as long as we have clean and honest elections, there's a smooth turnover, that potential 20% at the minimum every 6 years will eventually materialize.
Looking at the elections now, and a lot of people who are watching this are not just looking at their investments, but thinking about what will happen to the country next year. If you would paint a leader, a president that you think would be good for the economy, what are the traits or characteristics that you think that president must possess to further bring us to, as what you said, bring us back to the dock, given that we are in a storm right now?
Our situation today as a country is that we encountered a very severe storm. And what we need to be able to do is whoever becomes the president must be able to bring the ship of state away from the storm and into port. Now, that will entail a leader, and I've always used this since 2010, that the next leader should have these characteristics. Okay, the first, you must be bold, meaning you're willing to take a very big move, and a bold move meaning something that's different. Okay, so previous presidents like Noynoy Aquino eventually did a bold move. What he did was eventually, all right, let's look at how government works. It's like a leaking bucket. Let's fix the bucket. When the bucket is fixed, let's start spending. So that's what we saw. Okay? So the other one is that was being bold. If we talk about the present administration, they're focused on build, developing social capital, and just focusing on opportunities to seize. That is agriculture, tourism, manufacturing. That eventually defined this administration. The second is you need to be decisive. Decisive in the sense that our situation today, we need to make certain decisions now that will greatly impact the country in the next 2 to 3 years. And we need to do it now. Otherwise, uh, our recovery could take longer. The third is you must be a good orator. A good orator that will explain to the public, to government officials, to foreign investors that this is the strategy that this country will do to eventually veer away from the storm, and we will eventually bring that ship of state back into port. So it's very easy. So you need to be bold, you need to be decisive, and you have to communicate it well. You have to be a good orator. And we've seen presidents like GMA, we've seen Noy Noy do the same thing. So they're able to communicate what's important. Even this administration was able to likewise reiterate what the economy needed. So at this point in time, there are two main issues that we need to address. It's really talking about the pandemic management, and this is the first thing this government, the next administration should talk about, or the issues that they need to talk about is how are we going to veer away from this pandemic. And that the only way to do this is number one, shift to an endemic strategy so that we can further reopen the economy, build confidence, and eventually restart the economy. Second is we have to talk about poverty and jobs. Okay? We cannot talk about sectors such as consumer, industry without talking how are we going to rev up job creation. Okay? This pandemic taught us that the BPO sector and eventually remittances eventually became very resilient to us. We have seen the strengths of our economy, but we need to be able to reinforce them so that we can attract foreign direct investments. Now that the Create Bill is there, has been passed, and we need to eventually try to restart the economy. Now, addressing poverty and jobs must be supported by education. Today, we are faced by the challenges of, I think we're the only country in the world that stopped face-to-face education. And this is a big loss to us. Because one of the most important things, education is the fiscalizer of poverty. Poverty is a choice. But if you are educated, you can look for a job that will eventually bring you out of poverty. And this is something that we cannot deny the Filipino people. We need to eventually try to work out that we have to go back to face, build the infrastructure so that we can do an approach that for those that are able to do homeschooling and have the necessary equipment to be able to do that, or have the face-to-face, so that we have a multi-function strategy to ensure that education is provided, especially for the basic ones, because they are our future. Right now, our average median age of Filipinos that are around 50% are 25.7. Meaning, these are people that are English speaking, they are technologically capable of eventually embracing the digital space. Meaning, they're comfortable talking to a screen, they're better off talking to people using an email or a chat, okay? And we can take advantage of the needs of the global economy. Meaning, because we have a young population, we can retrain these people, those that have lost jobs, into a global employment for the digital space. If you go to Facebook, people will see those that are doing jobs of virtual assistants, and they're still here. This is far better than an OFW. This is like the BPO. They stay here, they spend the money here. That's good for our economy. Better social impact because the family is together, not broken families of OFWs. So this is important for us as a country. So to me, graft and corruption can rank number 4 because we have more serious problems than talking about graft. Graft and corruption will not bring back the money, and we've seen this. The rule of law takes a long time. So what we need to be able to do is look at leaders that will eventually, from day one, will be able to make the right decisions to steer the ship of state away from the storm and into port. So we need serious contenders, not just because they feel that they need to run for office to keep other people from taking the presidency, or they feel that they are popular enough to just run for office.
How should they prioritize the foreign direct ownership for our country? Because that's been looming. Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo, Pinoy's time, and even up until now, it hasn't happened yet. Should that be a priority as well?
I think let's put it this way. There are certain sectors that we might want to protect. I understand. But because you need to understand that we also need capital, and most of our locals don't have the capital, we can allow certain sectors to be owned by foreign 100%. Okay, a good example here is the power sector. Right now, now that we're talking about the life after COVID, most of the potential investments are into the sustainability story. Meaning, people are talking about green transitions. Meaning, you need to be able to think about the environment, the social impact, corporate governance. These are things that certain investors want to hear. And if I were a publicly listed company, I want to ensure that I have all green, meaning I can offer green loans so that there could be renewable energy. Those that are eventually trying to support the environment that will have social impact, that eventually creates my business to remain forever because of these sustainability initiatives. That also increases the impact to my shareholders and to the stakeholders. So, with those type of investments, you're ensuring, people to look into your company. So, the Philippines as a country will also have to address the environment. No, we need to address coal, especially now that coal prices are very high. The good thing is that we have major power producers that have long-term contracts for coal supplies. So there's really no reason for potential power outages because of supply issues. So that's something not to be worried about. But again, we need to be able to ensure that we will rely less on coal. We need to shift to more like solar, wind, and other renewable energies. So this is something that we also need to do so that we become competitive and we become a preferred destination for investors, especially the foreign direct investment.
Thank you so much for your insights. We talked about the macro economy as a whole. We talked about how it affects the Philippine economy. We talked about the Philippine stock market as well, and then the looming elections. I want to end it with this. Any final words, given everything that you've said, given all of the risks, the rewards, and where we are right now as a country, what do you want to impart to people watching this?
They have to think long term. I think everybody, when you think that we're in a crisis, we shouldn't waste this crisis. This should be an opportunity for us to rethink ourselves. How do we reinvent ourselves so that we become better persons and eventually do one thing for our country. So this is something that I think is I'd say, an opportunity for us to get a good direction. So for those that have extra cash, take advantage of any drops uh, to invest in the Philippines through the stock market or other means. Uh, the second is to think of their children. If they don't have children, think of their future. So that come May 2022, they eventually elect the right leader, the leader that we need, a leader that will be bold, that will be decisive, and a good orator. So it's very easy to remember the qualities of a good leader. BDO.
Thank you so much again for your insights. And I hope to everyone watching this, this is something that is very, very insightful for all of you. If you have any questions, leave it in the comment section below. And if they'd like to reach you, they just talk to you via Twitter. Your Twitter handle.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll put it in the description below, and then follow Jonas Ravelas in his Twitter. Very, very good insights also, not just in the Philippine markets, but charts about forex, etc. as well. So to everyone to everyone watching this, I hope this video helps you trade well, trade strong, trade smart. See you all again soon, and God bless you all.